it's Matt, and today I will be reading to you various facts about history. Or to be more accurate, I will be reading to you facts about things that have happened throughout history, or facts about well-known historical figures. So before I begin, I do want to say that, like all of my other fact videos, I cannot guarantee the accuracy of every single one of these facts, but the places where I found them seem to be pretty reputable, so hopefully they're all pretty accurate. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. Here we go. If the history of Earth was condensed into a 24-hour period, human history would have begun at nearly 11:59 p.m. For 99% of humanity's existence, humans have lived as hunter-gatherers, foraging for food in the wilderness. The first recorded name in human history was Kushim. The name belonged to a Mesopotamian accountant around 3200 BC. The only disease to be eradicated in human history thus far is smallpox. Despite Napoleon Bonaparte being commonly referred to as short, he was actually taller than the average Frenchman at the time. 1/3 of the world's population already lived in the Americas prior to Christopher Columbus's expedition to discover the continent. The first European known to have landed in North America was Leif Erikson, who arrived half a millennium before Christopher Columbus. Cleopatra lived closer to the introduction of the iPhone than to the building of the pyramids in Egypt. In addition, she was not Egyptian per the common belief, but actually Greek. The first gasoline car accident ever to occur happened in Ohio in 1891 and resulted in minor injuries. In 300 BC, turkeys were seen by the Mayans as vessels of the gods and were used in various religious ceremonies. During the Prohibition, the U.S. government added poison to industrial alcohols in order to deter people from drinking them illegally. Despite the wars and other violence that the world still experiences, the present day is the most peaceful time in human history. Since 1945, all British tanks have included the necessary equipment to make tea. Only one submerged submarine has ever been intentionally sunk by another submerged submarine. For a short period in 1908, it was illegal for women, and only women, to smoke in New York City. The loudest sound in recorded history was the eruption of Krakatoa in 1883. It was so loud that it could be heard 3,000 miles away. A Mexican general by the name of Santa Anna held an official state funeral for his leg after it was amputated. In the early 1900s, the Olympics awarded medals for the arts in addition to sporting events. Before ketchup was used as a condiment, it was sold as a medicinal cure for indigestion during the early 1800s. During the Ice Age, the natives of Great Britain made cups out of human skulls. The first democracy in human history lasted for 185 years in ancient Greece. Edward Thatch, most commonly known as Blackbeard, had a ship with 40 cannons on it, one of the most dangerous pirate ships in history. During the Salem witch trials, no one accused of witchcraft was actually burned, despite the burn the witch trope in popular culture. Most were jailed, and a few were hanged. The shortest war in history was a 38-minute war between England and Zanzibar. One of the longest wars in history was a 335-year war between the Netherlands and the Isles of Sicily. No one was killed. In ancient Rome, the average life expectancy was only 20 to 30 years. Until 1836, it was illegal to celebrate Christmas in the United States, as it was considered a pagan holiday. When forks were first introduced, they were seen as sacrilegious. Some religious institutions viewed them as disrespectful to God, who had created humans with hands so that they could directly touch and handle food. During World War II, a dentist proposed that President Roosevelt should attack Japan with bombs attached to bats. However, the plan was cancelled after some of the bats used for testing were accidentally released, causing damage to the testing facility. Cowboys did not wear the stereotypical cowboy hats seen in modern depictions of the Old West. Instead, most of them wore bowler hats. Prior to the mid-19th century, dentures were made using teeth pulled from the mouths of dead soldiers. A secret society called the Order of the Pug was created by Bavarian Roman Catholics in 1740. New members of the society were required to wear dog collars and scratch at the entrance door for access. A man named Tsutomu Yamaguchi survived both atom bombs dropped on Japan and lived until the age of 93. The inventor of the light bulb was not Thomas Edison, but Warren de la Rue. He created it in 1840, but Edison was the first to patent it, along with many did not invent himself. The first person to own the Mona Lisa after Leonardo da Vinci's death was King Francis I of France, who hung the painting in his bathroom. The shortest presidency in United States history was that of William Henry Harrison. He died of a cold after only 2 months as president. Roughly 1% of the Aztec population, or 250,000 people, was sacrificed every year. One of the most successful racehorses in history was named Potato by a stable hand with poor spelling who spelled the name P-O-T-O-O-O-O-O-O. That's 8 O's, like the 8-O in potato. For a period during the 1800s, people would throw mummy unwrapping parties. The trend was exactly what it sounds like. An author named Morgan Robertson wrote a novel called Futility about a supposedly unsinkable ship named Titan colliding with an iceberg. 40 years later, the Titanic collided with an iceberg and sank. The nursery rhyme, Mary Had a Little Lamb, is based on the true story of a little girl named Mary Sawyer, who had a pet lamb that she sold wool from to raise money for a church. In ancient Egypt, honey was smeared on servants in order to attract flies away from the pharaoh and to them instead. It is estimated that Genghis Khan killed around 40 million people, or 10% of the world's population at the time. Gaius, a Roman emperor also known as Caligula, made one of his horses a senator. The first female member of Congress was Jeannette Rankin, a woman who took office 4 years before women were granted the right to vote. Albert Einstein was offered the role of President of Israel in 1952, but he declined the offer. Prior to alarm clocks becoming an affordable, reliable option in Britain, people called knocker-uppers were hired to knock on clients' doors and windows with sticks and pea shooters. In medieval times, animals were often put on trial. In the 19th century, a medicine called Mrs. Winslow's Soothing Syrup was popular with children. It contained morphine. Before the 1960s, tobacco companies paid doctors to star in advertisements promoting the supposed health benefits of smoking. The ancient Greeks believed that giants were real after finding what they thought were giants' bones in the mountains. These bones likely belonged to woolly mammoths and mastodons, not giants. During the Victorian period of the United Kingdom, teacups called mustache cups were popular. These cups had special face guards meant to prevent mustaches from being wetted by tea. Ancient Egyptians used stone slabs as pillows. During World War II, Americans called hamburgers Liberty Steaks because the word hamburger sounded too German. In the United Kingdom during the 1700s, pineapples were seen as status symbols and were carried around and used for decorating clothes to impress others. A Japanese soldier sent to an island in the Philippines during World War II stayed there for 30 years and did not realize the war was over until 1974. When he was found, he would not believe that the war had ended until his former superior personally convinced him of it. The University of Oxford is nearly 400 years older than the Aztec Empire. Many medieval manuscripts depict knights battling snails. The exact reason for this is unclear. The 50-star United States flag was designed for a school project by a 17-year-old boy named Robert Heft. His design received a B-. For a long period of time, it was believed that diseases were caused by bad-smelling air. This belief is what led to the creation of the well-known plague doctor mask, which was filled with flowers and other ingredients meant to reduce the effects of foul air. When the tablecloth was first invented, people were meant to wipe their hands and faces on it. The first American Indian to make contact with the Plymouth Colony Pilgrims greeted them in English and asked for a beer. And finally, when the inventor of the top hat first wore it in public, the sight of his hat reportedly caused a riot. And that is all. I do hope you enjoyed learning some facts about history. And I do hope you're feeling more relaxed or sleepy, or even sleeping right now. I'd like to thank you for watching, as always, and wish you a good night's